30-second board is about to go up. This is nervous time. Who is going to win the race to the first corner? It's going to be a mad scramble down there, 235 yards, and then into the left-hander. 30-second board is out. There's Brock preparing to race like the devil.
Only a few moments away from the start.
10 seconds.
To the 1981 James Hardy 1000.
5.
We have touch-off for the 81 Hardy 1000.
Johnson's
and it's
flying.
Dick Johnson of Queensland who leads from Kevin Bartlett going into the first turn, and just look at that wall of cars. All trying to find a way around that corner. 60 starters as they go through the turn. Let's make sure it is an incident-free first corner.
Johnny Harvey's made a great start, slipped through inside of Bobby Morris and is up in 4th place behind Johnson, Bartlett, Brock, then Harvey, then Morris.
Standing on the gas, Dick Johnson, but Bartlett is coming to him as they speed up Mountain Straight.
Up the top, up the mountain, across the top. Bartlett was enormously quick up there in yesterday's runoff, despite the wet. How quick can he be today in the dry?
Just look at the passing on the straight as they go through there. Now through GTX. That takes them along, and they wind their way now up the mountain with this tremendous duel going for the lead with Dick Johnson and Kevin Bartlett. Up now to the cutting. Down through the gears, almost stopping for a moment to turn left. Through the cutting. And now heading onto the steepest part of the mountain. Then, of course, the flat run right across the top of the mountain.
A minute 18 seconds to the top of the mountain, the cross skyline for Dick Johnson.
Dick Johnson is the race leader. In second place, pole sitter Kevin Bartlett, and Peter Brock is third. Now down through the tricky, the torturous part of the racetrack. Working away hard is Dick Johnson. He's running for broke out in front. And you can imagine the tremendous delight of the spectators along pit straight when the first lap is completed, and almost a little sideways coming out of the turn and working away at the front straight, Conrod Straight, Dick Johnson and Kevin Bartlett. The comparison between their two cars will be fairly evident. Alan Moffat, who lost a little in the opening lap, the big V8s gobbled up Moffat's Mazda, but he's sitting back there in about 12th or 13th position. The dice continues down the straightaway as we wait for them to come on in. And it's big Rev Kev Bartlett, who has taken Johnson on the straightaway and takes the lead back. Here he comes, the completion of one lap, the opening lap in the James Hardy Classic. And it's Kevin Bartlett with Dick Johnson down the inside and Peter Brock just glued to their tails as they come down pit straight. Morris is 4th, Harvey is 5th, and the next one on the inside was Gary Rogers.
2 minutes 28, the standing lap time for the first lap.
Okay, can Johnson now do it back up the mountain? Bartlett, the pole man, out in front, looking good at this stage. And Johnson says, okay, let's do some racing. Brock sits back off them, waiting for a mistake. It's going to be a mistake. I don't think it's probably going to come from these two fellas running up front. They're professionals. They're the limit of their equipment. They're all running with full fuel tanks, as you can imagine, for the start, and carrying a lot of weight up the mountain.
Race has claimed its first casualty with car 52 rather, car 52, the Holden Story Escort, already off the circuit, being pushed backwards into the pits.
Okay, the Camaro goes through. Moffat is there, but come up over the top of the mountain this time. It's still Kevin Bartlett. Glued to his tail is Dick Johnson of Queensland. Brock is third as they swing through now into McPhillamy Park.
Morris has taken Harvey and slipped back up to 4th place.
Okay, the reaction to this race will be immense at the top of the mountain. 3 big V8s, 3 different type of race cars. From our Channel 7 chopper, you can see them wending their way down through the S's. Morris back there in 4th. 5th is John Harvey. Gary Rogers is 6th. Now, whether Bartlett's car has enough sting in the straights, you should be able to see Johnson led at this stage, but was passed on Conrod Straight by Kevin Bartlett. Peter Brock sitting very, very close indeed to the leaders, and Bob Morris not that far away in 4th place.
Winding up down the straight for the second time. Bartlett in front. Johnson slipstreaming. Not enough, I don't think, to pull out and pass. And Brock lying in wait.
Well, the Camaro has the legs, and this year it can stop. And that was the difference. Last year it had the legs, but Kev had cardiac arrest every time they got to the end of the straight. Here's Johnson. Now the brake duel. Whoa! Not much between them. There was almost a touch.
Bartlett's over the strip on the inside.
Boy, Dick Johnson wants to lead this in a hurry, and Brock says, let's make it 3 wide and have a real race of it.
Brock takes the inside run.
Oh,
Johnson's lost out in this battle. Bartlett maintains the lead. Brock is through to second.
okay, Brock is now going to put the pressure on. I think Brock wants to get up there in front and run. Johnson says, hey, I was up there a minute ago. He's going back after it. The comparison of speed along going up the mountain straight between the Ford and the Commodore.
Oh, this is desperate stuff. Johnson just has that edge in power up the straight over Brock.
Here's Johnson again. Now it's Peter Brock who
Holds
takes
it
him on
through
the
the corner.
inside. And whether or not Johnson's going to be happy after taking a lick there for the lead and almost getting squashed by the Camaro. Hello, we've had one down in the sand dunes. Just can't pick the number up at this stage, but the driver climbing out of it after what appears to be an excursion off the racetrack.
Bottom of Conrod, he's off, I think.
So after 2 laps, we already have one in the bunker. Up over the top of the mountain, Kevin Bartlett in the Camaro. And right on his tail is Peter Brock. Going to put plenty of pressure on Bartlett and see if that thing can stop and run strong. Bob Morris, meantime, has moved up a little closer to Dick Johnson. So we have a Camaro, a Commodore, and 2 Fords in the top 4. This is pretty racy stuff in the opening laps. Kevin Bartlett is attacking the first 5 laps as though he was going for pole position again.
After 2 laps, Laurie Nelson's Capri was in the pits. Look at his nose to tail, and Bobby Morris is slipping right into the back of Dick Johnson.
We have a tremendous race going here for the lead, and I think Brock is getting a little agitated, just wants to harass Kevin Bartlett a little more, see if he can force him into error. He sat in behind. Look at Bartlett leading left and right down Conrod Straight. He should have the long legs over Brock, but we'll wait and see what the braking is like when they get to the end of Conrod Straight. I'm quite surprised that Brock, in fact, is staying with Bartlett. Here he is pulling out. And now going to race Kevin down, and just takes him very quickly. That was what Johnson tried to do, but got a fender caught in there at the same time. So, okay, a few laps down, and you listen to the crowd are up because it's Brocky coming from behind in the Commodore that takes Kevin Bartlett. The crowd goes wild along pit straight. Bartlett still in second. Johnson is third. Bob Morris is fourth. Gary Rogers fifth, and 6th place is held by John Harvey.
2:22.57 was the flying lap time for Kevin Bartlett last time around, despite the fact that he got nutted right there at the bottom of Conrod by Peter Brock. Brock leads up the mountain. Bartlett in hot pursuit, and has he got the power to... oh, he might lose out on the corner here, I think. The right-hander.
Look at this,
there's a definite touch. Bartlett's lost something.
Dearie me. They're attacking this like it's the ovals at Talladega.
It's a flare off the Commodore, in fact, that came adrift there.
Well, there's
Nudge, nudge.
Peter and Kevin certainly got a flair for the spectacular in the opening laps of this race. Through the cutting again, Morris has joined up, making it 4 wide. It looks like a railway car going up towards the top of the mountain. Through the top. Brocky at this stage with a little breather. That's the furthest he's been in front at this stage. Bartlett winds up across the top of the mountain. They're really stressing the Camaro at this stage. They've kept plenty of pressure on him. I don't know whether Brock at this stage would want to be running out in front.
Army Reserve is in the pits for a briefing.
Yeah, through the Essence. Peter Brock looking good at this stage for the Marlboro Holden dealer team. And boy, this is the part of the racetrack that shows a professional. That's how smooth Peter Brock is. You can see he's just opened a gap up now on Kevin Bartlett. They've put the pressure on the Camaro.
But right here and now, most people's predictions have gone out the window.
Have they what?
They said Brock wouldn't be able to keep pace with Johnson and Bartlett in the early laps. He's in front.
Okay, I'm not quite sure if he wants to be setting that pace, but he's doing just that probably. Wisely to stay out of the duel that was engaging Kevin Bartlett and Dick Johnson. However, heading down Conrod Straight at this stage, Peter Brock with the wood on them. In second place, still Kevin Bartlett, and now it's Dick Johnson who ranges up behind Bartlett as they head down to the completion of another lap. Johnson was thinking about what Peter Brock did the lap before, but decides to tuck in and see if he can have a shot going back up the mountain one more time. Okay, oh, dearie me, Brock, I think has got problems, has he? He's pulled to the outside, and Brock is, I think, in trouble. Yes, he's been passed by Kevin Bartlett. Goes back into the race lead. Johnson is in second place.
Bobby Morris third.
And Brock has tailed right off back and forth. We'll see if he can get back up the mountain without a problem. Whether or not he just did that and then decided to hang back off the pace, we'll wait and see. But meanwhile, it's Big Rev Kev and the Rock victim running 1-2 as they head up the mountain again. So the changing fortunes of this race, unbelievable. Bobby Morris in the 7 Bob Jane entry now moves into third place. And they have put a long gap. We'll have to wait and see whether Brock is in fact in trouble. Well, they promised us a race and a half a few years back with the Camaros. We're getting it this year.
Muir and Gagan's Army Reserve car is no longer in the pits. It's been pushed to a bivouac behind the pit area.
Well, there's the gap. And Brock, I think, is in trouble. Yes, he is. He's being passed by a lot of cars going up the mountain. So unbelievable at this stage that Peter Brock, who really went hard to try and catch the lead, take it and consolidate, has run into problems. We won't know what they are. Evan Green, obviously, in the pit area is following this, so we'll be checking out if Brock, in fact, does come into the pits with any problems.
Evan, in fact, I can see with John Shepherd at the moment heading down in the direction of the dealer team pit to inquire just what's the cause. But meantime, there's Bartlett, there's Johnson still nose and tail.
Look at Bobby Morris. Morris has caught them up as the three of them race across the top of the mountain. One Camaro, the pride of America's production cars, leads 2 Fords. Okay, they swing through onto the front straight. Conrod straightaway, down the straightaway, and we'll see whether Johnson is going to mount an attack. That could be Brock further back.
Just ahead of Garth Wigston, you're right.
It is. Yes, he is. He's staying on the left-hand side of the road. We'll see if the car on the outside passes him, one of the recars. Yes, he does, but he still has sufficient to be able to get past these 2 slower cars heading down Conrod Straight. With a race of changing fortunes at this stage, the most dynamic start that we've seen to a Hardy Classic here at Mount Panorama. At the moment, it's still Kevin Bartlett leading from Dick Johnson and Bobby Morris. And get ready for a change, because coming down pit straight, it's Morris and Dick Johnson who find the wood. And now, at the end of pit straight, going back up the mountain, it is now Dick Johnson who takes over the lead as Peter Brock comes into the pit area, and certainly an unscheduled pit stop. Okay, he's now in.
And Brock in the pits. They're checking with the driver to see just what the trouble is. It's the back tyre. Peter taking some of the fruit juice there, speaking to Bruce Nowacki at the moment. I won't get near him. He's got a lot on his mind with such an early stop. He did have it coming together with Kevin Bartlett. It may just have been some rubbing at the back there. They've added fuel, but that was merely to top up and take full advantage of it. I'll have a word to Bruce Nowacki now.
Okay, have we got Bruce Nowacki there, Evan?
Very important.
Up the top of the mountain, Dick Johnson leads from Bartlett. What a race of changes. Right, G. Brock didn't rejoin the race at all. He's pulled off behind the pit row and he's gone back to the Marlborough Holton dealer team encampment. There he is. By gee, this is a shock.
That now puts a ton of pressure on John Harvey and Vern Shupin. Whether or not that driving pairing will be split later in the day by Brock stepping into the car, we'll have to wait and see. Driving like the devil. Maybe the devil did it. Okay.
I understand they're going to do a diff change on Brock's car.
Okay, back at the race lead, and we still have one heck of a race going for us. We've got Queensland's Dick Johnson leading from Kevin Bartlett. Bobby Morris, not that far back behind them. Shot that shows idea of the speed down Conrod Straight. Surprise, surprise. Kevin Bartlett with the long legs takes the lead back again at the end as they over some of the slower cars. Oh, look at this. We've got a good race going here. Let's not interrupt this for a moment. We've got Dick Johnson all over Kevin Bartlett like a wet blanket. Bobby Morris decides to sit back off them a little bit, and that's perhaps going to be a wise move. We have these two big V8s setting a tremendous pace out in front. Bartlett's so quick. At this stage, though, Dick Johnson manages to be able to pull the Camaro in as they head up the mountain, but down the mountain, of course, Bartlett has the long legs, but a great race going between these two. Okay, back to Evan Green in the pits with some information on Peter Brock.
It looks like that bump between Kevin Bartlett and Peter Brock might have disastrous consequences for the Holden dealer team, because the word, John Shepard, is that he has axle trouble.
Yes, and by the look of the road here, Evan, when he pulled out of the pits, he's left one black mark, which would indicate he's got some problem in the rear axle, and we hear that it's actually broken the rear axle, but I'm not sure that the accident with Bartlett would have caused that, because it's driving on the right-hand wheel. I'm sorry, it's driving on the left-hand wheel, and he hit on the other side, so it's...
Unless with a shock through the...
Possibly so.
In which case the dip might be suspect.
Yes, yes.
Now, how long is it going to take to change?
I don't believe with the problem they've got, they're going to be in the hunt. You don't have time to change your mind up here these days. It's not like years ago when you had time to change these parts. It will take, if it's an axle, it will take them at least 20 minutes. If it's a dip, well, they're in big trouble there because it's quite a big job.
So early in the race, it might be the end of the Harvey event for the man who's won 5 times, Peter Brock. Back to you, Mike Raymond.
Thank you, Evan. We're catching the action over the top of the mountain, about to come back down Conrod straightaway again with Kevin Bartlett out in front, running strongly. Dick Johnson in second place, and Channel 7's Bob Morris is in third place. Back behind in fourth place is John Harvey in the second of the Marlborough Holden dealer team Commodores. Gary Rogers is the next one on number 11, and then number 27 is Garth Weakston of Tasmania.
Car 21 follows. That's Ron Dixon's Camaro, and then the first of the lower class cars, car 44, the BMW.
Okay, heading down to the end of Conrod Straight. The braking duel is on again between Kevin Bartlett and Big Camaro, and of course Dick Johnson in the Prudential True Blue Falcon number 17. Bob Morris third all. Bartlett gets off that corner a little scrappy, and this time Johnson says we've got a clear straight away and we've got a left-hander up the end. Let's see if we can change the positions, and he does just that. But watch Bartlett try and make this a short turn and work away at the inside. Couldn't do it that time. So Dick Johnson now takes the lead back in the race. Second place Bartlett, third place is Bobby Morris as they head up the mountain once again.
Morris has got to be the man smiling at the moment, hasn't he?
I think Morris is setting just the right pace. He's just letting these two pass and repass each other, and if something happens where they come together, smiling Bob's going to be sitting there ready to pick up the pieces.
7 laps. Dick Johnson in front. Once more. Kevin Bartlett second. Bobby Morris in third place. Then John Harvey. Gary Rogers, Garth Weakston, Ron Dixon, and then the first of the 6-cylinder stroke rotary cars, and there are 2 of them running back-to-back at the moment. Car 44, the Grice BMW, followed by Alan Moffat in car 43, the RX-7.
Over the top of the mountain, and these two professionals who know absolutely the stress that their cars can take. They have absolute respect for each other. They're two pros, as I've said. They can race door handle to door handle without coming into any form of collision. But at the moment, it's Dick Johnson of Queensland, the 17 True Blue Prudential car. And moving up to keep the shade off his bumper is Kevin Bartlett once again in the 9 Camaro. Bobby Morris sits back off the pace by about 25 metres. That's a good place to be at this stage. Once again, Conrod straight away. Now we'll watch the speed of the Camaro. Can he pull back that short lead that Dick Johnson is enjoying at the moment? I'll tell you what, there's no doubt about it. A set of 4-wheel disc brakes has made somewhat of a difference to the Camaros this year. At this stage last year, Kevin would have been thinking about changing rear pads. Okay, Conrod straight, the battle is on. Johnson says he can run this 178 miles an hour.
Bartlett pulls it out.
And says
goodbye.
181 perhaps, or maybe they're not running at that speed.
Now brakes.
Johnson conserves, knows that he can at least stay with the race leader. Bartlett's not going to run away from him. Bartlett gets a little out in the dirt there, and he didn't so much that time. The previous lap he did, and that, of course, enabled Dick Johnson to take the lead. Morris is still back in 3rd place. Just look how close they are. This is a 1,000-kilometre event. It's not a round of the National Touring Car Championship over 100.
No, they've only had 8 laps down. long way to go.
Well, it's quite obvious they can't keep this pace up all day. However, at this stage, they seem to be enjoying it, racing nose to tail up the mountain and then pulling out, trying to repass down Conrod Straight.
Well, one thing you can say about both Bartlett and Johnson, they only know one way to race, and that's 100%.
Okay, they've cleared out just a little from Bob Morris. Bob's got an open racetrack, though, and he certainly has them in his sights. Bartlett is very spectacular through the cutting. Gets the tail out just a little bit. Johnson sits in behind. Heading up in the direction of Philomene Park. Just look at the speed. We've got one park further back there on the inside. We'll pick that up later for you. Okay, a little sideways motion that time. A little bit of paper blowing off the racetrack. And the crowd would just really be loving this at the top of the mountain. Kevin Bartlett in the Camaro leads Dick Johnson, Bob Morris.
Johnny Harvey still holding down 4th spot in the second dealer team car at the moment, and hasn't he got a weight on his shoulders with Brock in behind the pits with diff problems. 5th spot, Gary Rogers in car 11, which was in fact last year's winning Brock car, now been taken over by Gary Rogers. Then Garth Wigston, car 27, the Tasmanian entry. Then the second Camaro, as they stand on the track, car 21, Ron Dixon, the Barbecues Galore entry. And then, as I said just a few moments ago, the first of the 2 6-cylinder and rotary class cars, car 44, the BMW of Alan Grice and David Hobbs, followed on the racetrack at the moment by Alan Moffat in the Mazda RX-7.
Well, this great dice continues, and it shows promise of continuing for quite a while. We'll take a break and return to all the action live from Mount Panorama at Bathurst.
31.
Welcome back to Mount Panorama, and this great duel out in front still continues with Big Rev Kev Bartlett and the Camaro still leading. Second place still being held down by the Queensland folk hero Dick Johnson. Bobby Morris is in 3rd place, and John Harvey in the only remaining Marlborough Holden dealer team Commodore in 4th. This is where they're fairly close. Bartlett swings out, uses the full extent of the racetrack there, but still very, very tidy off the turns. They're coming up on some overlap traffic at the moment. Bartlett in pretty good shape. Goes out right to the edge of the white line. Gets through the whole racetrack up, and he looks good as he heads up the mountain. And his rear mirror is just full of True Blue and Prudential and all those other sponsors that Dick Johnson has across the front of the car.
And on the way up the mountain, they pass stationary off the left-hand side of the circuit, car 37, the Trend Windows Capri, Terry Daly and Peter Hopwood. Bad luck.
Okay, some more cars that they lap as they head up once again the mountain.
Car RX-7 there, they just whip past. They take the right-hander and the left.
Bobby Morris is still back there, just sitting back in third place, about 50, 60 metres off the two race leaders. Bartlett gets out of that turn in pretty good shape. That's the part when they're changing gears and go over that little lip where they can really scream the engines. Okay, Dick Johnson, I tell you what, if he was any closer, Kev may as well open the boot lid, he could climb in. They are using all of the racetracks, so they are treating this first 10 or 12 laps like a sprint. Terry Lee, high in the sky, we take in the action as they sweep across the top of the mountain. Doing it nicely, and that big car is just gliding across the top of the mountain. No understeer, oversteer, it is just absolutely perfect. And the same must be said for Dick Johnson. He probably doesn't want to run much quicker than Bartlett's running at the moment. He can keep him honest. It's a cool day. It's sunny, but it's cool, so they're not going to have an overheating problem.
These are the two men that were absolutely quickest in time practice on Friday. These are the two men who coped with the change to the appalling wet conditions yesterday in the run-off for pole and finished up on the front row of the grid. And here they are again, dicing for the lead in the great race, the James Hardy 1000.
Bartlett absolutely screaming down Conrad. Johnson has been left behind there in the wake. Down through the gears, and if Kev can keep this up and everything works well, he is looking good at this stage of the race. Johnson in second, just makes up a little under brace. Bartlett now attempts the inside as he laps Peter Williamson by the look of it. Dick Johnson does the same. And now they complete one more lap running 1-2. So the position's virtually unchanged.
2:21.63 was the flying lap time last time round. And for a race time, that is enormously fast.
Yes, that was practice time. Okay, Bartlett leads up. Dick Johnson sitting back off him just a little bit this time. He's had a couple sitting on the bumper. Now he sits back just a fraction.
Bobby Morris in third place, as you said, about 50 metres behind the leading pair. He's got about 250, 300 metres on the fourth place car, Johnny Harvey, in car 25.
Alan Moffat leading in the six-cylinder.
Alan Grice.
Alan Grice, I'm sorry, in the six-cylinder Roby. And, of course, Alan Moffat, I think, in
43, followed by car 34. That's the Penrith Mazda of Terry Shield and Don Holland. They're the top three in that class.
And in the four-cylinder?
Four-cylinder class, car 56 is the leading car at the moment. Of course, that's the turbocharged Nissan Bluebird, driven by the Japanese driving combination of Masahiro Hasimi and Kazuyoshi Hashino.
Hope the boys are having fun. Okay, well, of course, our Channel 7 telecast, we try to cover our racing from every possible angle. We're going to cover as much of the front running, the early part of the race for you, so you can see this great speed dice that's continuing. We're already being able to show you shots from the top of our chopper, and we have two camera cars out there, which we're not going to get involved with, apart from just show you some pics for a while of what it looks like. And I think we've picked up on Peter Williamson's car as he heads down Conrod Straight. We won't trouble Peter for commentary at this stage. We'll just have a look at what the action looks like. If you think that's quick, you remember back one lap and you had both the race leader, Kevin Bartlett, and Dick Johnson just go straight by Peter Williamson.
Peter Williamson, second in this four-cylinder class at the moment on the racetrack. He's in second spot behind the one we were just talking about, the Nissan Bluebird, with the Japanese drivers.
Okay, Williamson heads down, drops down a gear or two, and drives that little Celica absolutely flat strap along pit straight. That's what it looks like along pit straight. See the crowd off to the right, absolutely packed here today. Now the left-hander. Okay. That It's through Hell Corner, and now they head up Mountain Straight. The next turn will be a right-hander. That's a GTX bend.
The Datsun seems to be slowing.
You can hear Peter Williamson talking. You can see Terry Lee and our chopper off to the left. As we head up now to their next corner, which is GTX. We'll drive you around the circuit and show you what it's like. GTX, right-hander. Now, once again, the steep climb up to our next, which is the cutting, of course.
Where's Brock?
Through the cutting. Here we go now. Through the left and the climb, once again, up the top towards Reed Park.
Watch that needle climb.
Keeping an eye on the tachometer. 6. Wow!
Hello, John Harvey, and goodbye.
So if you thought you were running quick, he's running away from Williamson. Okay, across Reed Park.
Williamson might...
Going down into Castrol. If you've been eating bacon and eggs in Western Australia, stand by. We're going to come over the top of the mountain and down through McPhillamy to Skyline. Down through the gears. Left. Right. Left. Right. A left. Another right. And down through the gears to this gradual left-hander that gets very, very touchy as you come out against the wall. And you're back on Conrod Straight. There's one lap with Peter Williamson.
Well, remarkable picture. And that's only a sample, because we've got another race camera in the Alan Grice BMW. We'll be seeing pictures from that a little later on, and of course we'll be having commentary out of both cars as well. All that and more to come from the great race when we return to Mount Panorama.
Warren Cullen has just brought the Commodore into the pits, and Alan Jones will be driving. Alan in the pit studio with me. Just a very slight problem by the look of it, Alan.
I don't quite know why he came in. I think it may have been just to take on some more fuel, but he's been lapping considerably quicker than what we have done in the last couple of days. He's in the 26s, which is some 3 or 4 seconds quicker than what he did the other day. So it looks like the fresh engine and the mods we did last night have helped.
Right. Talking of quick cars, what do you think of the pace of the leaders? Are they going too hard?
Well, only they know this, of course, but the enviable position I would like to be in at the moment would be that of Bobby Morris, because he can sit back, put his car into some fresh air, brake a little bit earlier, save the tyres, and I think he's in a good position. I mean, I really don't know how hard Dick or Kevin's pushing it, but the opening laps were very fierce, and they were treating it like a sprint race. And I think that I noticed the Camaro's back end is sliding a little easier. It's obviously a lot harder on tyres than the Falcon, and I think this might make for Kevin coming into putting a new set of tyres on a bit prematurely. But at the moment, I'd say Bobby Morris is looking good.
So they're about to lap your car that Warren Cullen just brought in. You'll take over the second stint. When does Warren propose bringing the car in next? Do you know, Alan?
I would imagine in about another 25 or 30 laps, and then I'll jump into it.
Now, you have never driven here at Mount Panorama, but you did come here as a boy with your father, Stan Jones.
Yes, I came here many times with my father when he was racing Maseratis and Maybachs and things like that up here, and I forgot how good it was.
Well, what are your first impressions? You've now seen the first dozen laps.
Well, I'm glad I didn't start the race. No, I'm very impressed. I think the whole thing is very impressive. The fabulous atmosphere, a real good spectacle.
You must be disappointed, though, the problems you had early on in the car we're watching now, Warren Cullen, sandwiched there between the two leaders.
Well, we've had some tremendous problems with the car. I can't believe it. You know, I arrived here very early on Wednesday morning, and, you know, we've had nothing but problems with it. But maybe we've had our gremlins left behind us, and we'll do all right today when it counts.
The news from the back of the pit, by the way, Alan, is that they and the Holden dealer team are changing the entire rear end assembly, having had the broken axle apparently in Peter Brock's car. Whether it was caused by the coming together with Kevin Bartlett, we don't know. That would seem likely. Those early laps were particularly vicious, weren't they? The way they were bumping and crowding each other.
Well, you know, it's 1,000 kilometres, and it's certainly something that I wouldn't try and win in the first corner, or indeed the first 10 laps. And maybe that coming together may have deflated Brock's tyre a little bit, which has put more strain on one side of the diff than on the other, and this may have caused the problem that he's got now.
You haven't raced at Bathurst before because traditionally the Formula One calendar has had the US Grand Prix East at Watkins Glen, but that was cancelled this year, and that's the reason you're here?
That's correct. I mean, normally I'd be in upstate New York right now, probably asleep with the time difference, but I'd be there to compete in the United States Grand Prix. And fortunately for me, that venue's been cancelled, and the next race is not until Sunday week at Las Vegas, so it'd give me the opportunity to come here, which I'm very glad of. So I noticed Kevin Bartlett's Camaro is getting more and more oversteery in his pursuit of Dick, and I'm sure he's going to be in for tyres not before too long, particularly rear ones.
Now, I know tyre wear is a problem also that must be concerning Dick Johnson. There was a good view there, just that slight little touch as KB put the tail right out and touched the grass there. It must be worrying both drivers, but it would seem that the Chev Camaro is going to suffer a little early with tyre wear.
Well, I think so. I think at this particular pace, Dick is probably in a better position because his car's a little bit lighter on all the components than what the Camaro is. And if Dick can get out into the fresh air, which he currently is at the moment, and drive at his own pace, you see Kevin's getting more and more oversteery with every lap. And, of course, it's a vicious circle because the more that you do that, the more the tyres heat up, the more they heat up, the less adhesion you have.
What sort of factors go through a driver's mind in a race like this? You mentioned tyre wear. What else must you consider in conserving the car while you're trying to go so fast?
Well, I think all that very late braking in the early laps wasn't doing anybody any good either. I think Bobby Morris was in a position where he could sit back and maybe, you know, sit back and have a look at the other drivers and brake a little bit early, conserve his pad wear. And when they're racing like that in a sprint race, they're really getting into the brake pads and also their tyres. And, of course, there's a long, long way to go yet.
The news from the pits is that the work on Peter Brock's car is almost finished. We might try and get there, Mike Raymond, to see what's going on. I'll hand over now to you. We'll talk to Alan Jones a little later on in the telecast. In the meantime, it's back to Mike Raymond.
Thank you, Evan Green, and our thanks to Alan Jones. Well, Dick Johnson still the race leader, keeping in mind that laps of this event are sponsored the Coca-Cola bottlers. $50 a lap to the outright leader for the first 80 laps. Now that makes up $4,150. Keep in mind that Dick just looked like he had $50, but of course Kevin Bartlett just took one more 50 off him. He's gone back to lead it again. And number 9, second is still Dick Johnson. And third is Bobby Morris. So they have that raging battle still going, swapping the lead.
I hope they've got an accountant to work out who's getting this lap money. They've changed so many times.
So what's happened at the moment, you see, is Dick's been leading all the way down Conrad and Kevin's been passing him and picking up the lap money. Okay, it's Kevin Bartlett and Dick Johnson. Johnson in the true blue Prudential entry. Bartlett and the Camaro in front. They've been glued together. Back in third, still Bobby Morris. And fourth place being held down by John Harvey in number 25.
IBM computer tells me that Bartlett Forbes are piling up more money than Dick Johnson is at the moment.
Okay, Peter Brock's car is now being backed out. By the look of it, they have completed repairs on Brock's car. He is still a number of laps down. And you can see the frantic work as they try to get the car out of their team pit area. They'll come down and bring it back into the pit road. Don't worry about the banners, boys.
Well, the $100 in lap money that he's got so far will pay for that replacement.
Okay, we'll see if he's coming straight out. Certainly going to add a lot more interest to this race. Back at the top of the mountain. Dick Johnson thinking about passing this move to the outside. Not so much trying to telegraph to Kevin Bartlett. He's still there and ready to pass again. We heed the words of Alan Jones talking about his view of how the Camaro is running at this stage. The tyre wear factor could play a very significant role in the outcome of this duel that we're watching at the moment. 16 laps completed. The race leader was Kevin Bartlett, Dick Johnson, Bob Morris, and of course John Harvey. Glued together down Conrad Straight. Kevin Bartlett used the inside. Johnson went across there. Kevin came back again.
Alan Rice leading the six-cylinder class in the BMW car 44 is now 8th position outright. Just behind him is Murray Carter's Falcon moving up in the field, and then Alan Moffat's Mazda RX-7.
Okay. Heading up the top of the mountain, Peter Brock is now back in the race. Okay, very interesting to see how much work they've completed and what the actual problem was with Peter Brock's car. Come in, Evan Green.
Thank you very much, Mark Raymond. I have with me John Shepherd in the pits. John, you are following the work going on. What did they do to the Brock car?
They fitted a complete rear axle assembly to it. Both the rear axles were twisted. They didn't open it up, but they feel that the whole diff assembly is collapsed, so they just fitted a complete rear axle assembly to the car.
Would it be a result of the bump with Kevin Bartlett?
I'm doubtful. With both axles twisted the way they were, I wouldn't think so. But more likely the result of a violent start, I would say.
So he may have gone a little bit too hard too early.
Quite possibly, yeah. But I'd say, yeah, just a bit of over-exuberance off the start, maybe with a full tank of gas and so forth, may have been a problem.
Well, what sort of power would they be putting through those axles?
Well, they put through 3,500 pound-feet of torque, but in first gear it's multiplied by about 10 because of all the ratios, so a vast amount of torque goes through there. So, you know, 3,000 odd pound or more, and they just can't stand it in a whack. You know.
Now, can he win from that position?
I'd say he's like the boy pushing the barrow at the moment. He's got his work ahead of him, and 20 minutes to lose is a long, long time here. And as I said, I don't think you've got time to change your mind here these days. He's a very hard job to do it from there.
John Shepard, thank you. Back to you again, Mike Raymond.
Okay, Evan. Peter Brock is back out in the racetrack and will probably be driving like a devil. We're going to take a break and return with more live action from the James Hardy 1000 at Mount Kennedy.
There's Peter Brock in 05, 11 laps down after 20 minutes behind the pits with that rear axle and diff problem. But now back and circulating. Kevin Bartlett still the race leader ahead of Dick Johnson and Bobby Morris. Bartlett, Johnson still nose to tail. Bobby Morris about 16 seconds behind Bartlett at this stage of the race. The BMW, Alan Grice and David Hobbs continuing to lead the six-cylinder and rotary class, and the Nissan Bluebird with the Japanese driving team continue to lead the four-cylinder class.
Well, one car that struck trouble early in the race was, of course, the Army Reserve Racing Team entry of Robert Muir and Big Pete Gagan, Ford. They had some problems. This, of course, will show you them replacing, I think, a sump gasket. Of course, the Army Reserve have a tremendous unit out here, really promoting their involvement with motor racing. All the crew is appropriately decked out, and they have a big tent.
I hope this car never goes off in the scrub at the top of the mountain. They won't find it.
There's
It's camouflage paint.
There's the sump gasket. They've at least got a sense of humour, and it's ready to get back in. Okay, there's Brocky across the top of the mountain. The race lead still has not changed. Still as before we went to our last break. One car in the pit area is the Charlie O'Brien Citizen Watches car. So Peter Brock, as you've seen, the man who was trying to take this out completely, make it in a row with Jim Richards, and luck I would suspect goes against that, but the Brock preparation, the dealer team preparation of this car is immaculate. And whilst he is down a lot of laps after replacing the complete axle housing, don't bet against Peter Brock not coming back up during the day. He knows how to conserve and run strongly.
On the IBM computer printout at the moment, it reveals that Peter Williamson has assumed the lead now in the four-cylinder class in the Celica car 77. And the Japanese Bluebird entry has slipped back in that class to about 5th position, so they might have something just amiss with that vehicle. I see that in the outright situation, John Goss in the big V12 Jag has moved up into 11th place.
Okay, so the pursuit of those lost laps continues for Peter Brock. The Phillips scoreboard now, as we take a look at the leading positions with Kevin Bartlett, the race leader from Dick Johnson. 3rd place, Bob Morris. Then John Harvey. Number 11, of course, is the next car, and that's the Launceston Hotel combination of Gary Rogers and Clive Benson Brown. Number 27 is further back, of course. That's the Garth Wigston, Steve Harrington Commodore, the Roadways entry. Then Alan Grice, who is very, very strongly placed, 6-cylinder car. They're separated by Murray Carter and number 18, and 43, of course, is Alan Moffat in the Peter Stuyvesant RX-7. And then, of course, number 10 with Johnny Goss coming into contention in the K-Tel Jag. Talking about John Goss, here he is heading up the top of the mountain. The big Jag, the V12, carrying a fair amount of weight. And they've been trying to develop this car here at Bathurst over the past few days. Almost coming together. That's very close indeed. As the brown car goes through, that's the Recar entry. Heading up the top of the mountain. Looks like another one of the Recars, so they've got it nicely squashed in between the pair of them as they head up there. Sweeping up into the mountain. Looks like all the networks well represented here today. Johnny Goss for or 10, and also for K-Tel and the V12 Jaguar. But he's made the top 10 so far, so that's a fairly handy place for Goss to be. This car surprised a lot of people with its performance, initial performance at Sandown Park a few weeks ago. And Goss is in there and splitting the two Ricard team Commodores.
Wide there, Goss, but then it's a very wide car. Takes up an awful lot of room on the racetrack, but has an awful lot of power and is running as well as Gossie's ever been able to get it to run. Let's hope it continues for him, because he deserves a change of luck. Oh, through that very sharp left-hander there, the bottom drops out of the roadway. Quite a jolt, travelling at those speeds.
We'll be able to see the speed of the Jag on Conrod Straight now. We've got two team Commodores, the two Ricard team cars. And we'll see what Goss can do with the pair of them as they head down Conrod Straight, keeping in mind laps in this race are sponsored by Coca-Cola bottlers in the first segment, Ingersoll Rand in the second. Then, of course, Wins Friction Proofing have a $5,000 award to the pit crew of the car, completing the fastest time over a secret 10-lap section of the race. This is a new innovation by Wins Friction Proofing to give some incentive back, some financial incentive to the pit crew members. So $5,000 is certainly plenty of pit crew incentive.
And the Jags left the two Commodores behind down the straight.
He did that quite nicely. So he certainly has the top-end speed for Conrod Straight, as one would expect him to have. It seems to be running quite nicely indeed. Johnny Goss and the Jaguar back into motorsport. That's a good sign for touring car racing.
We've got a clock on Johnny Goss. We'll just see how he goes round next time. Meantime, Bobby Morris comes in. No, it's not Bobby Morris.
That's, of course, Bill O'Brien and the Gary Cook entry. That was the car that was driven by Bob Morris last year. I was going to say that there's no way in the world Bobby Morris was coming up to be lapped by the two race leaders. There they are, Kevin Bartlett and the ever-present Dick Johnson, heading up Mountain Straight.
Time now that the traffic's getting a bit thick.
Okay, as Morris comes down to the end of Conrod Straight, our two leaders then head up Mountain Straight. So that's about the gap, about 17 or 18 seconds.
Only 16 cars now on the leading lap.
Okay, we try to provide you with just about every angle of this race, from high in the sky, our low ground shot, our static cameras, and of course from two cars. We've had a look in Peter Williamson's car already, and later during the day, of course, we'll be taking you inside the John Player BMW, currently out in the racetrack and being driven by Alan Grice. Of course, is the race leader in the six-cylinder category, and up to 8th in the outright. Okay, we've given you a shot before inside the car of Peter Williamson. Now our first look at what it would feel like if you were driving, sitting on the right-hand side, keeping in mind the BMW is a left-hand drive car. So that's exactly what it would look like as you head down with a little bit of interference there as we head down Conrod Straight. Staying to the left-hand side of the road. Alan Grice driving quite smoothly. Later in the day, we'll be able to show you what it's like, or what Grice, how he drives the car, because we have remote on our race cam system, so we can show you the driver's hands and how he is attacking the wheel or not attacking, but smooth. Okay, so Grice comes under the Hardy Bridge, heads down pit straight into the left-hander at Hell Corner. Through there quite smoothly. Heading now up Mountain Straight towards GTX Bend, the right-hander. Car very, very competitive. They've had problems with it, a few minor problems in practice. But as you can see, Alan Grice heading up the mountain. We'll have more in store from our camera cars, our chopper, 23 other camera locations around the circuit when we return to the James Hardy 1000 from Mount Panorama at Bathurst. Dual world position. Heading through GTX, now up the top of the mountain. Murray Carter, the Russell car just in front of them, so we have a lot of traffic here. We've got one that's parked up there. That's not too good either. Okay, troubles would it be for Kevin Bartlett? We'll wait to see. Yes, it looks like Kevin Bartlett is coming into the pit area. Our report is that he has a deflating left-hand front tyre. Let's just see how quickly the crew can get onto this job. That's going to put Johnson out in front. with a comfortable edge over Bobby Morris at this stage. Okay, the crew, have jumped over one of the air jacks driving in. So Bartlett by this stage has overshot the pit area. This is precious time. Fuel coming out very, very quickly indeed. Dumping fuel in the car and going to replace tyres. We'll wait and see. Bartlett sitting in the machine trying to lift it up and get a new front wheel and tyre on. There it is. You see the crew very quickly working with air guns. So whether or not misfortune certainly has beset Peter Brock, who led this race, and now Kevin Bartlett, who was leading. That's putting Dick Johnson out in front, as I said, with a comfortable edge. We'll go trackside now to Evan Green. Evan, can you fill us in on exactly what's happened?
Well, here, a great deal of heat as they try to swing the air scoops away to get into change the wheel. The tyre.
Okay.
But winding the wheel on, you can see that desperate effort to try and unhook the metal. That fellow's going to get himself burnt hands there. It's very hot in there with all the heat from those front disc brakes. There's some dismantling now having to go on. They're trying to work from the inside of the guard so that they can get that metal clear. An oil line has just been disconnected. We're sprayed with hydraulic fluid here. I suspect they're trying to disconnect the brake on this side. The other side, they say, not so bad. I'll see if I can speak to Kevin. He's a bit remote from it. I'll go over here. Kevin, can you spare us a moment? Very frantic times those early laps. Too hard, or does the car feel okay?
Fine. It's just a complete and utter amateur nincompoop got in the way and turned right, just turned straight across my path, put me straight into the fence, and I took him, mate. That guy has to be black flag. I'm going to punch him in the mouth when the race is over, and that's a fact.
And he said that with some authority.
Having conversation with co-driver Bobby Forbes. You can see the damage on the guard. The fiberglass extension has been cracked. The paint from the other car there. The remains of the guard still causing trouble as the mechanics try to clear it out. They're going to get fire extinguishers out now because of the heat. I suspect they're concerned that they may have a fire there. There's some hydraulic fluid leaking from the front. Mechanic with the fire extinguisher comes into place, has it ready. He may give it a dousing with foam. A rag is the next order. Things are pretty hectic here in the pits at the moment. I have John Shepherd with me while we watch, John. These are the moments in which the race can be lost.
Exactly, Evan, and this is the sort of thing that you, as I was saying before, you have a problem like this here, you don't count on them in the first place. A car like this, it's running so strongly, and a minor problem like this, and everything's gone astray now.
What are they doing on the inside there? I can't quite see where they're draining hydraulic fluid.
Yes.
Damage to the brake?
It seems that way, Evan. I'm just trying to see myself, and I'm trying to have a look without getting in their way, and I feel I don't want to get involved because they don't need us under their feet, but they're cutting pieces of bodywork away and all sorts of things there.
Okay, thanks very much, Evan Green and John Shepherd. Well, drama in the pits, Evan. Got those few words from Kevin Bartlett. Leading the race in a slower car has taken him out into the wall.
He's been there for 3.5 minutes.
And there's a lot more drama to come when we return to Mount Panorama at Bathurst for the James Hardy 1000. back at Mount Panorama at Bathurst, and Kevin Bartlett still in the pit area. Bad luck indeed for Bartlett. I think he's gone searching for the driver involved. The car is still there, and there is the vehicle that came into contact with Kevin Bartlett, we believe, up towards the cutting. So at this stage, he certainly cost Kevin Bartlett the race lead, and perhaps an outright victory in the James Hardy 1000.
Very grim-faced Kevin Bartlett, as you mentioned, out of the car and stalking up and down the pits. Looking to punch somebody in the mouth as he threatened to do. Evan Green now has him by the arm and is leading him back towards his pit counter and towards our pit studio area. Evan may be able to get another few words with him, I don't know, but he's trying to placate Bartlett as much as he can. Kevin shrugs his shoulders and says, look out, I want to get back in there and just see what the hell's happening.
Well, obviously they've shredded the tyre completely off the wheel, and they've got bits of metal absolutely everywhere there. That is absolute wretched luck for Kevin Bartlett. The manages to snatch pole position here. He's done it for 2 years in a row.
7 minutes they've been there. And they're going to be there a lot longer by the look of that.
I think a very distraught Kevin Bartlett. That's his co-driver, Bob Forbes, trying to console him. I think Evan wanted to have a talk. Okay, well, let's go down to Evan Green.
What's the story, Kevin?
The fellow in the recar car, Ron Wanless, turned right on me going up the pinch out of XL. I was right alongside him, actually passing him with about 10 mile an hour on board, and he just moved straight over on me. And it was either him or the fence. I got him, but of course, when I hit him, his guard flares or his wheels punctured one of my tyres. And
What damage has been done?
well, when the tyre went, it tore a brake line off. The brakes look fantastic. If you have a look at the pad where there's just absolutely none at all at the moment. The car was just so good. I was so happy with it, and I was doing it easy. The tyres will go through 2 stops. However,
How much work's going to be done now?
just a new brake line. They take about half an hour. Oh no, about 15 minutes to fit.
I was looking for the wheel which was around there, but I think it's been moved.
Well, that was simply a matter of the punctured tyre, and I had to get back to the pits, and the punctured tyre just flew apart. That's all.
Now, Kevin, you just walked up to the Ron Wanless pits. What message did you deliver up there? Because you look fairly belligerent.
Well, I went to find out who was driving it. I was going to punch the guy in the mouth. When I found out it was Ron Wanless, I thought I'd better back off a little. His next boxer, he might flatten me.
Kevin hasn't lost his sense of humour. Well, wretched luck for Kevin Bartlett. It's part of racing. You certainly have things wrapped up, and then all of a sudden things turn sour.
Dick Johnson, meantime back on the track, now has a 19-second lead over the second-placed car, the Falcon car 7 of Bobby Morris.
There's Alan Moffat heading up Mountain Straight, number 43.
In 8th position at the present time on the track.
And looking good.
And second in that 6-cylinder and rotary class. The BMW on the track just ahead of him, Alan Grice's car, is circulating in about 2:25. BMW in 7th spot. Moffat right behind him in 8th spot on the track at the present time. The IBM computer printout has car 17, Johnson first, car 7, Morris second, then Harvey in the second of the dealer team, cars 25. Gary Rogers in a Commodore car 11 is in 4th spot, then Garth Wigston, Commodore Dixon. Now the first of the Camaros on the track in car 21 is in 6th place, and those 2 smaller class cars camp right behind that leading division. That's the BMW and the Mazda.
Okay, let's have a look at Alan Moffat as he comes over the top of the mountain.
Seems to be something dragging on the track underneath his car, Mike.
Could be something just caught on the spoiler, a bit of paper or something. Could be the spoiler, has he? He was very, very concerned during practice yesterday about, yes, he has. He's lost the spoiler. Now, that will have some marked effect on the performance of the Moffat car, because that was one thing that Alan was concerned of. They've been replacing front spoilers. The car sits so low to the ground that when he takes a bump, and you can see that clearly underneath the car, there's a bit appear to be jammed there. But at this stage, he soldiers on in the race, and he's certainly still in the top 10. The peripheral ported Mazda, and perhaps during a pit stop they can effect a very quick change to the front spoiler. His co-driver, of course, is Derek Bell, the co-winner at Le Mans this year.
The IBM computer informs us that of the first 20 cars, 17 in fact are 8-cylinder and over cars. There are only 3 of the smaller cylinder class cars in the top 20 at the present time, and those are the 2 that we've mentioned: the BMW car 44 of Alan Grice, car 43, the Moffat Mazda.
That was Peter Williamson's car with one of those Yank tanks that Peter likes to talk about, but this time it's running away from him, going up the top of the mountain. We'll take you for another lap around, eh? Okay, that's Ron Dixon, I believe, that is leading the Williamson Celica across the top of the mountain. The top of the mountain, of course, takes in McPhillamy Park, the Castrol Tower, which we go past over Skyline, down into the Dipper.
He's holding pretty well to Dixon's tail.
Watch him catch Dixon up in a rush now. Okay, Dixon is now trying to pass this slower car in front of him, so he pulls to the left. And now he swings across, and Peter also takes that car. Getting down into Forest Elbow. Now watch at the speed difference now for you people back home. There's the Chevy Camaro.
When do you want me?
Okay, Peter Williamson, take it away.
When do you want me? Good morning, Australia. Welcome to Toyota territory. Bathurst 81. The race has settled down now. We're running second to the Japanese entry in the Datsun Bluebird turbos, being trailed by Graham Bailey in the other Celica, and the race that set its pattern. There's been a bit of drama, as you're probably aware. Hang on a sec. Don't want to miss there. Apparently Bartlett went in with a broken wheel by the look of it early in the race, and Johnson's looking very strong out in front. I've been hit twice in the start. And Mazda tried to outbrake me in the beginning and hit me in the back. Then the Works Datsun Turbo took me down the side, so I haven't had a very enjoyable start to the race, but we're looking so strong now. We're in second place, and we're just hoping the good old Toyota reliability pulls us through.
Peter, Mike Grayman in the tower.
Yes, Mike.
You satisfied with where you're running at the moment? Everything running just properly as you had indicated before the race?
Hang on a sec.
Sure.
Yes. No, we're quite happy with the position. I've got to watch my front tyre. I tend to do 60 laps without a stop. Oh, with a fuel stop only. Oh, holy cow, that's stupid.
Yes, we'll let it that.
Oh, gee, that was close. Anyway, I got a bit of a task in front of me because that's the Japanese totally supported entry that's leading us. In fact, there's more Japanese in the pit down there than there was in Okinawa in 1944. I feel a bit like John Wayne. I'm about to go over the top. But we'll just sit here and wait for him to blow up, I think.
Well, you're looking good there, Peter.
There's Terry Lee out there, if you want to have a look at him.
Where's our chopper? Let's have a look. Hello, Terry.
Can you see him?
Yes, we can see Terry.
I took Terry skiing to Sun Valley this year.
Did you? He didn't crash at all?
He was a bit worried about it because he'd never been before.
You bet you weren't as quick on the slopes as you are on Conrad.
And we took him up the top of the mountain, and he said, "Holy," he said, "I tell you what, Willow," he said, if I ski down there, you come for a ride in my helicopter." He skied down, but only just, and I'm not looking forward to that helicopter ride. I think he'll fix me right up.
Well, Peter, everything's going quite nicely.
Yeah, we're very strong.
We thank you very much for...
Okay, Mike, over.
Bye-bye. Okay, that's Peter Williamson for viewers around Australia, and that marvellous race cam system that's been devised by John Porter on behalf of the 7 Network and seen across CBS in the United States. We'll take a break and return with more action live from Mount Panorama at Bathurst. Well, some racing problems at the moment for Peter Brock. Looking so good yesterday in the wet, so good in practice, and so confident. Undoubtedly Australia's most professional race car driver, probably more wins than anyone else. Okay, following the John Player BMW, coming down onto Conrod Straight, takes it nicely through Forest Elbow, and here he heads into Conrod Straight now. Still leader in the class, Alan Grice, in the 6-cylinder category, and up running strongly in the top 8.
Johnny Goss, the Jag V12, is in the pits.
the speed. You can see the John Player BMW, a car that is noted for its reliability. Grice, I think, is delighted to be running this machine this year at the James Hardie Classic.
Brock is back in the pits.
Brock back in the pits. The Bartlett car is still in the pits. And all the problems that beset Dick Johnson last year have beset a few other teams this year.
Ron Dixon is in the pits.
There's 44, Alan Grice, the John Player BMW from New South Wales.
If you're not in the pits, it's not fashionable.
Okay, so we'll look from outside the car. Now let's take a look inside the John Player BMW, heading up Mountain Straight. You can compare the line. The camera position, as you will note, is on the right-hand side. So if you were driving at the BMW as right-hand drive, which obviously you can drive them in Australia, this is what the view would look to all of the other drivers in the races we follow through. Coming up to lap one of the slower cars, heading up towards the cutting right now. Very smooth. Comes into the cutting, the gears down a peg, accelerates out there nicely. A little bump just here, as you can see. The car levels out, swing across to the left-hand side of the road, use all of that white line, and come in, use the proper apex through there. They cut the white line there, an absolute flat strap over the top of the mountain.
Kevin Bartlett, meantime, Mike, just better let you know, is back on the track, having been in the pits for over 20 minutes, and 05 Peter Brock is back behind the pits again.
Well, that's bad luck indeed for Peter Brock. We'll continue our lap around Mount Panorama with Alan Grice. Beautiful smooth lines coming up with the flock of course cars there. There's obviously a problem up the top end, or perhaps even further down. Okay, down to Forest Elbow. Here's the truck that Grice now moves around the outside of.
Left-hand drive is supposed to be an advantage. The problem on this circuit is being on that side of the car, you get to the apex of the corner before you can see around it.
That's right too. Okay, down Conrod straight away now. Really going strongly. Reliable motor car, and Grice had said all along that he will come into contentions in this race after lunch. So depending on what time you take your lunch, Alan Grice should be up there, and in fact in running at the moment in the 6th place. Alan Moffat in 7th, so a great dice going between the BMW and of course the peripheral ported Mazda of Alan Moffat. Heading down pit straight away again. Shots of the huge crowd here as we follow them down into Hell Corner, and once again back up the top of the mountain. Okay, we'll take a break and return live to Mount Panorama for the James Hardie 1000. Straight away with a good buffer over our 2nd place driver, who now is John Harvey, following a pit stop only a matter of moments ago by Bob Morris.
Scheduled pit stop too by Bob Morris. Apparently no trouble. Straight in. Took on some fuel, just checked tyres and out again.
Well, at this stage, we might get an update from Evan Green shortly, exactly when the Johnson team expect to do their pit stop, which would then obviously put John Harvey into the race lead. But there's Dick Johnson, everything going so smoothly for him this year. Missed pole position by not too much because he and Kevin Bartlett were tied on a 2:21 even on Friday. The rain upset qualifying yesterday.
With Peter Brock now off the track again, and Bartlett back out after that long stop. It's Dick Johnson that's piling up the Coca-Cola lap money in this first 80-lap period of the race. With 35 laps gone, Johnson has $750 worth of lap money at $50 per lap. Bartlett, of course, had compiled a big lead at $850, but is being rapidly overhauled. And of course, Brock got a miserly $100 before trouble put him off the circuit.
Well, that lap money in the first segment, courtesy of Coca-Cola bottlers around Australia. Total lap involvement, $4,150, and Dick's looking for every bucket. Okay, Terry Lee in the 7 chopper comes across the top of Skyline, and there is our race leader. And I think it would be a happy day for all our viewers throughout Queensland with Dick Johnson, the man from Prudential, leading this quite nicely. We mentioned the problems that set Johnson last year. At this stage, the problems, and every race leader so far has had big problems, not Dick Johnson. Still has a good lead over John Harvey. And then the 11 car, that's the Launceston Hotel car of Gary Rogers of Victoria and Clive Benson-Brown of Victoria. So they're also very, very well positioned.
Garth Wigston is next in car 27, and on the IBM computer printout 44, the BMW of Grice and Hobbs is now in 6th place outright on the track, followed by car 43, Moffat's RX-7.
Okay, Conrad straight away. Well, everyone had made comments following Sandown that Dick Johnson was the type of driver who could fold under a little pressure.
He's had more than a little pressure today.
I think Dick Johnson has had the last laugh in the pressure department. He was a little upset with a lot of people who wrote him off that Peter Brock could pressure him into all sorts of problems, and they had discounted the problems they had with shockers in the Sandown race. But a very supremely confident Dick Johnson. I think his comment to Evan Green earlier this morning when he mentioned that the race, the James Hardy 1000, means absolutely everything to him, and particularly this year. Wants to reward people throughout Australia who supported his racing involvement throughout 1981, following that bad luck and the crash, of course, with the Rock last year at this particular track. So he's in good shape.
Run the clock on Dick on this lap just to see how quickly he is circulating. When he was out there and dicing for the front with the Bartlett Camaro, they were getting around at about 221 plus 222. So we'll see just how he's circulating at the present time. Well, he's 39 seconds ahead of car 25, Johnny Harvey's Commodore.
Well, I would think at this stage the conditions would be ideal for Johnson. He has the pressure off him. Bartlett is not there. Peter Brock, he would be well aware of, is in the pits. So he can basically set his own price. Okay, look at this from the back of the Peter Williamson car. And here comes the race leader up to take him as they go across the top of the mountain. Now, camera points out the back. As you can see, Dick Johnson, watch how he closes. Whether or not he takes him before Forest Elbow, we'll wait and see. There he is. That'll give you an idea of just how quick, in fact, the little Toyota Celica is down through the mountain. But as soon as they reach Forest Elbow, where they are about ready to reach now, you'll now see Dick Johnson with the booming V8 move to the outside and effect a pass. Here he comes. Wow. And we pan around as Dick Johnson takes Peter Williamson, and then Peter Williamson just follows him down Conrad straight away. And you'll see Johnson now run away. At this particular point, they'll come over the top of the crest, down into the left-hander, of course, at Murray's Corner. But at this stage, Dick Johnson has really stretched out. There he is, our race leader, Dick Johnson of Queensland. Peter Williamson lost a lot of ground, as one would expect, and Johnson runs away and hides.
Lap time coming up for Johnson, 2:24.07.
That would be a very comfortable time for Dick Johnson. If he wanted to, he could run all day at 2:24s, and providing he can hold that pace. And how far in front, in fact, was Harvey?
19 seconds in front of Harvey and 1:16 in front of Gary Rogers in car 11. I spoke to Dick about circulation times during the race, and I said, would you like to be going around 2:25s? And he said, well, I'd expect to be in about 7th place if I was doing 2:25s. So the fact that he is doing that time and he's in front shows you how easy he's doing things.
Well, I think that they would be looking at doing 2:22s or 2:21s if Kevin Bartlett was there and if Peter Brock was still there to race him. But the pressure off him at this particular point, things are looking pretty good for Dick Johnson. 2:24, he could run around and probably drive around one-handed like that for the rest of the race. John Harvey, though, has been the underdog so far at the Hardy Classic. At this stage, 36 seconds back in 2nd place. But still, he'll sit there, and perhaps the pit stops will be very crucial indeed for the Johnson team today. Some paper blowing across the top of the mountain. Still very, very cool here at Mount Panorama. The big crowd here today certainly enjoying this sight, and that is Dick Johnson out in front, going over the mountain. Very, very smooth indeed down through there. And coming up behind John Goss and the KTEL Jaguar. We'll see if he can make the ground up. And actually, their run down the Conrad Straight will be very interesting here. Look at the speed comparison. Goss Coming up behind him to put a lap on him is Dick Johnson. Johnson sitting to the left of the road. We're getting a lot of wind buffeting him down Conrod Straight today. The drivers were all remarking about that in practice.
Just had news from the pit area, Mike, that Brock will now be listed as a co-driver for car 25, so 05 is out of business.
Okay, that's a shot from Lowe. He's not driving 25 because Johnny Harvey has come into contact with a car and is attempting to climb from the car. The
other car's going to lose his door if he doesn't shut it in a hurry.
Harvey is anything but happy about this arrangement. The other driver comes across the road. We'll see. Dearie me, what wretched luck there. Harvey tells it all by throwing his gloves on the ground. The other driver involved comes up and throws his gloves on the ground.
The Army Reserve, Jansen, goes through. The flag marshals frantic at this point, trying to look at the stream of traffic.
Okay, Harvey quickly sizes up the situation and is now trying to see if they can...
Flame under the car.
Flame under the exhaust pipe, probably still burning. That is a precarious position to be. To see how close the cars are when they come around the corner. And this is where the flag marshals have to be so much in command of the situation to advise drivers that there is an obstacle in front. So the flag marshals very quickly, or the extinguisher marshal there, making sure that the grass doesn't set alight under John Harvey's car. Very off-putting indeed. Well, okay, let's go down to the pit area where Bob Morris's co-driver, John Fitzpatrick, a co-winner of the race in 1976, sits in with Evan Green.
Thank you, Mike. Well, John was just saying this seems to be the classic case of a slow car problem.
It would seem so, Evan, yes. So many times in these long races, the slow cars play a very important part, and you obviously have to have a lot of slow cars to make up the numbers of the race. And I must say that looking at the screen so far, the slow cars have been very, very good. They look in their mirrors, but inevitably you're going to come across one when he's very, very busy and he can't look in the mirror, and a slight error of judgment either way can be the finish of the race for someone, and that's what we've seen here.
We've already seen Kevin Bartlett virtually put out of the race and into the pits for a long spell because of the problem. As we watch the view from inside the car of Peter Williamson going down through those S's, and there's the close shave with Johnny Harvey's tail there. Wretched luck for Johnny Harvey, really, in second place. And then obviously in some sort of incident with another car, a slow car on the other side of the track. But it's Harvey, the second runner, and the man for whom Peter Brock was going to drive as relief driver, obviously way out of the race. You've had your own car in the pits too, by the way, John Fitzpatrick. Bob Morris made an unscheduled stop in Falcon number 7. There we can see it with the other car. The first time we've had a really clear view of who else is there. Car 51 is the Chickadee Chicken car of Graham Bailey, the ex-Peter Williamson Toyota Celica, been a consistent performer this year, and it's the Graham Bailey's car that's been involved in that incident with Johnny Harvey. Well, he's a very experienced driver. I don't know what happened there, whether there was a third car to cause them both some sort of strife, which is not beyond possibility.
Yeah, it's a particularly hazardous part of the track there, you know, down through the dipper. Perhaps you know, you're committed in a big car and a slow car pulls in front of you and you just can't stop, and it's just bad luck, you know, that everybody's busy and you can't really blame anyone.
I know a point that you've been concerned about, John Fitzpatrick, as we watch your car with Bobby Morris going around, is the rescue vehicles, the trucks that go out to haul other cars. Now, you regard that as being a peculiar Bathurst hazard.
Yeah, I've always said it is. It's such a difficult problem. I don't know what you can do about it, you know. They've got these continuous walls around, so there's nowhere to take the cars away. But I think that breakdown vehicle is a hazard, and you know, I just keep my fingers crossed every time it goes out on the track. But on the other hand, you can't leave cars just sitting there on the side of the road. So, you know, what do you do? It's just a compromise.
There's another service vehicle going out now as we speak. John, Bobby brought the car in just a moment ago. What was the trouble?
Well, there wasn't really any trouble. He did come in a little earlier than we expected. I thought he'd come in at 41 laps because to make the race with only 3 pit stops, you have to do 41 laps. And he was using more fuel. He just ran out of fuel. So it means we'll have to have an extra pit stop. And it'll be interesting to see if the leading car can make the 41 laps so he can do without that extra pit stop.
Well, that could have been a critical stop there because Alan Jones, when he was helping out in commentary earlier on, was saying he regarded your car as being the one that was best placed.
Well, yes, I'm very happy the way Bobby's going. You know, those 3 cars at the beginning were going really fast. They were going faster than we wanted to go, faster than Bobby wanted to go, and he hung back. And I think watching those 3 cars, it was fairly obvious that all 3 of them couldn't really get past the quarter way. They were so close, running so close and so fast. So Bobby, if you discount the pit stops, we are theoretically in 2nd place. Everyone else has to stop yet, so we're looking quite good.
But do you think maybe that extra stop has cost you the race?
Well, yes, let's see what everybody else does. If Dick Johnson gets to 41 laps, then that puts us in a difficult position, but it's so early to say, you know, it really is.
Maybe the critical thing, John Fitzpatrick, is that the pressure has been taken off Dick Johnson.
Yes, he's been driving under tremendous pressure and he's been doing a fantastic job. It's nice to know that, you know, when you're in the lead and you've got a comfortable lead and you can ease off a little bit, it helps you in the traffic with the slow cars as well.
The voice of John Fitzpatrick. Let's return to the action here at the Great Race at Mount Panorama Bathurst in just a few moments.
Dick Johnson, meantime, has had one very quick pit stop to take on fuel and is still the race leader. Garth Wigston, who had so much difficulty in the run-off for pole yesterday in the wet, is enjoying the dry conditions today and holds down 2nd spot at the present time from Gary Rogers in car 11, 3rd. That's the readout from the IBM computer. Johnson in 1st place in car 17, the Prudential True Blue Falcon. Then in car 27, a Commodore, the first of the Commodores, Garth Wigston. Then Gary Rogers, Bob Morris in another Falcon, co-driving with John Fitzpatrick. And the Grice BMW is now in 5th position outright on the track. And the RX-7 Mazda of Alan Moffat is in 6th place.
Well, there's our 3rd place car coming into the pit area at the moment. That's, of course, the Rogers entry, the Launceston Hotel entry coming into pit. What should be just a normal pit stop. Peter Brock, of course, has been out and back in and out and back in again, so we might allow Peter Brock to explain himself, actually, some of the problems that have beset him here at the James Hardie 1000. Take it away, Peter.
It's the Panhard rod, or Watts linkage bolt, which locates into the diff housing. The stay itself has just fallen out, it's gone. And it's been like 2 or 3 laps. It was a lot of smoke, and I thought perhaps it was oil on the back tyres, but it wasn't. It was the body shifting and the tyres hitting tyres rubbing against the bodywork. Well, look, it should be a 30-second job, but the problem is when the bolt's pulled out, it's pulled the first couple of threads out with it. So we're just sort of trying to get this started. Good luck.
Okay, we pick up again with the Bob Morris car in 4th at the moment. Just staying in front, of course, of 5th place BMW, Alan Grice, in the 6th place Mazda, number 43 of Alan Moffat and Derek Bell.
Gap between the first 2 cars, Mike, is only 5 seconds. Dick Johnson's lead over Garth Wigston at this time. 40 laps gone in the race.
Okay, heading up the mountain. There you can see Morris heading through the cutting.
He's 53 seconds astern of Dick Johnson.
There's the McLeod RX-7 just in front of it. It's a reliable runner, always has been. Well driven. Morris comes over the top, looks towards an inside pass here and takes him on the inside. So Bobby Morris holding station at this stage in the event and still running in 4th place. You can see the gap that Morris puts on the Mazda over the top of the mountain. It will close up down through the S's. Terry Lee tracking the action as we come down through the S's.
Peter Williamson's car just coming into the pits. 1st stop.
Oh, that is a terrible sight up at the top of the mountain. Okay, Peter Williamson.
There's a couple of cars up in the cutting.
Yeah, what? Shook man crash?
Yes, fuck.
Talking to the pit crew.
Tell them not to put a tyre on. Piss off.
Peter Williamson, can you hear us? Well, I don't think we should probably interfere with Peter at this stage. We'll let the pit stop go. Be a little unfair to him. I'd like to get his version of the first look coming over there with John Harvey's Commodore sticking out of the Armco at the top of the mountain.
Williamson running in second position at the present time in the four-cylinder class, behind the Nissan Bluebird entry, the Japanese driving combination.
We also have the second place car in the pit area at the moment too, and that is the Wigston Harrington entry.
Williamson out very quickly.
Yeah, that was a good pit stop. Heads back out pit road. Johnny Smith, of course, is the co-driver with Peter Williamson. John, of course, driving the Formula Pacific Series. There's Peter Williamson. Now we'll take you trackside to Evan Green to talk with his co-driver, Johnny Smith.
Peter Williamson's been in and out in a 25-second pit stop. During that time, he spoke to co-driver John Smith. John, any problem?
No, Evan, that was a scheduled stop. He's going very, very well. We're happy with the way the car's running. It's going like a clock.
He changed the front tyre on the outside.
Just an outside front tyre. He didn't really have to. We'll be in another 17 laps for me to get into the car. We just want to stretch the first one, stop out a little bit, that's about all. Scheduled stop. It's good.
Back to you, Gary. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. And there you can see from inside the Toyota Celica, Williamson at work over the top of the mountain, and it is hard work. The gear changes, hands rock steady on the wheel. Watch the traffic, watch for those pickup trucks that are out there to clear the debris. I saw graphically a few laps back just what that looks like from inside the car when Williamson took a left-hand curve and the truck was right there on the side of the road, how close he went to it. Watch the dial there, bottom left of the screen. Williamson, foot flat to the boards across the top of Skyline. Now coming down into the S's. Right on the tail. The speed shop car. He wants to get back to the shop and pick up a little more the way Peter Williamson's nudging him. Car 63, he gives it the go-by. That's the escort of John Faulkner and Gary Dumbrell. Tight left-hander here.
Williamson at this stage, Gary, should be more than happy.
Oh, smiling at the top of Conrod.
Looking good at this stage is one of the Commodores, is it?
Bobby Morris, I think.
We'll close up and have a little look over the top. That'll give you an idea of when they crest the straightaway there. There's a lot of buffeting goes on. Anyway, certainly a V8 because it's run away going down Conrod Straight.
In that four-cylinder class, Williamson, as I mentioned, is running second behind the Nissan Bluebird of Hasimi and Hashiro. Down he comes, hard on the brakes. Round you come.
Okay, beneath the Hardy Bridge, and you can see the absolute dilemma up the top with a lot of traffic. Still a very dangerous situation. The drivers are aware of it. But at the same time, of course, you have so many of them so close together. Anyone with a braking problem with the Commodore, of course, still hanging out of the Armco up there, so they're taking a long time to be able to pull that back around.
tragedy for Alan Grice. I don't know whether he's a golfer, but he's in the bunker. Oh, and look, spun off at the bottom of Conrod Straight at Murray's Corner into the sand trap. Alan Grice, one of our camera cars. And you wouldn't believe it, on lap 44, car 44, spins off. Grice must be frantic. With the rear wheels well down in that sand. Grice was running in 5th position outright, 2nd in his class at the time. He had not long been passed by Alan Moffat in the Mazda RX-7 for that class leadership position. The car, no traction there. Look at the wheels spinning. That's the scene from the camera we have on top of the flying carpet there. For our chopper shot, rather. They're going up there, Chopper. That is close. And that is the desolating scene from inside the car.
What it's like to be caught on the bunker. Well, what an amazing situation. Last year, Johnny Smith did the same thing with Alan Grice's car.
That's the view coming down Conrod. You can see the cars coming towards Grice, then sweeping around the left-hander and passing him by, and how frustrating. The car running so well, being in such a great position, outright and in class, everything working so smoothly. And I mean, there are a virtual army of men there that just cannot budge this car.
Well, certainly a frustrating time for Alan Grice after running so strongly early in the race, consolidating his position on the track. There's the view outside with all the marshals just trying to dig the sand out of the trap to enable him to get back onto the racetrack again.
Will you get a four-wheel drive?
Johnson still our race leader. Bob Morris in 2nd place. I think 3rd would then be car number 11. That's the Gary Rogers Launceston Hotel car. And then surprise, surprise, coming through the field like everyone said he would, Alan Moffat. Now, I think the Alan Jones-Warren Cullen car just coming into the pits at the moment, so we could have our world champion Alan Jones taking over the driving of the car. Warren Cullen has completed the 1st stint. Okay, Evan Green, take it away.
A moment of some history is taking place at the moment, because for the first time ever in this race at Bathurst, a reigning world champion is about to go out on the track. Alan Jones being strapped into the cockpit of car 12 as Warren Cullen adjusts the belts. Slightly different build, these men. I was asking Alan, waiting in the pits, how it felt about the race at a circuit he visited many times as a boy for the first time. And he smiled, at least I think he smiled beneath the balaclava, and said he was looking forward to it. It's been a fairly frustrating session for the world champion. He hasn't raced, of course, yet. And in practice, he had troubles galore. The car really has been a problem for them. But Cullen has been out there doing pretty good times. They're just cooling down the radiator at the moment. No real problem there, I don't think, just in getting rid of some excess water in the bucket and trying to cool the car down while it's stationary. You can see the big fresh air scoop there feeding air into the big multi-barrel carburetor. Alan Jones still behind the cockpit as Warren Cullen gives him his last-minute instructions. They had 2 cars for practice. Car 1, the one they had intended running, they decided not to operate because of a problem. Alan Jones just trying to fire the car, first time unsuccessful. Second time, Warren about to give him instruction, hold it flat, he said, keep your foot flat down on the board. Alan's hardly driven the car, so it's an unfamiliar machine to him. Going in, giving him advice here as they try to pump the car back into life. An awkward moment when a car has stopped, as Warren Cullen did, turn the power off when he came in to refuel and change over. Now they're having some trouble restarting. A lot of water has been sprayed over the engine. You saw them bring the bucket full of water to cool things down. Whether it's touched the ignition, I don't know. You're giving him a push start. A lot of drag there as he drops the clutch and tries to get it going. Coffling is sputtering. A pretty exhausting work this, trying to get the car to fire. The crew running up the whole length of pit lane virtually, trying to get the machine back into life again. And a fairly inauspicious start for the world champion as he tries to get his car running. I'll speak here to Warren Cullen. Warren, how has the car been running out there?
Quite all right, actually. We're, more than pleased with it. We're lacking a little bit of torque, but apart from that, it seems to be holding its own around the corners and under brakes, and been doing everything right.
Alan's on his way now. What instruction?
And we must have kicked the accelerator when I got out or something, because it wouldn't start. But he's away now. It's pretty disastrous out there, actually. There's bloody cars all over the place. Pardon my manners. Johnny Harvey's in up the top and makes it doubly hard to drive and all that debris.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome back to Mount Panorama at Bathurst. And what wretched luck for Alan Grice that you can see down in the sand trap. Actually, the officials were trying to help. Alan, can you hear us down there?
Yes, Mike, I can hear you.
I can just imagine what's running through your mind. The preparation, everything that's gone into this, and just sitting there watching the race go on and can't get out of there. What happened, Alan?
Yeah, that's exactly the way you feel. I'm just one member of about 20 people that put all their effort into this, and 20 people have put us in a good position, and one person's taken us out.
Okay, well, Alan has to leave us because they've now got it activated again. They're trying to tow him out to get him out of the what looked like quicksand. Can you still hear us, Alan?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll let you go. I know you're pretty busy. Let's try and get it back on the road, and good luck for the remainder of the race. Okay, we'll leave it there for a moment until Alan can concentrate on what's happening. Wretched luck indeed for him. Okay, the race continues on. Kevin Bartlett is back on the track. 05 car is back out there.
Bartlett is 9 laps down. 05 Brock is 17 laps down on the leader. The leader is Dick Johnson, car 17 after 48 laps. There's a 50-second leader over another Falcon, car 7, driven by Bob Morris. And the first of the Commodores, Gary Rogers, in car 11. He was 17 seconds further back behind Bob Morris.
There's Alan Jones in number 12, the Advance Australia entry, supported by Leyland and quite a number of other people who've done their best to support the Warren Cullen effort to get Alan Jones to Australia. And I think, whoop, there goes Bobby Morris back through again. Of course, Morris at this stage is running in second place. Let's go back to the pits. As you can see, Alan Grice has pitted. I think he'd be in no mood to do any driving for a moment or two after being caught down in the bunker. But John Smith stepped into the car. Keeping in mind, as I said before, it was Smith last year in the Craven Mild car. Hobbs, I'm sorry. David Hobbs, getting my internationals mixed up. Our co-driver for Alan Grice, David Hobbs. And our other camera car, of course, John Smith, the co-driver for Peter Williamson. David Hobbs, of course, takes over the car at a critical point of the race. He settles into the car. We'll be getting some pictures from him later. We'll let him settle down for a number of laps, and then perhaps for our American viewers taking in our telecast through the CBS network, an opportunity for David Hobbs, the commentator, to also be race car driver and tell us what it feels like.
There are only 4 cars rather, on the front lap at this moment. Dick Johnson, Bob Morris, Gary Rogers, and Garth Wigston.
I can't hear you.
5th place on the track is Alan Moffat, a lap down.
Okay, 6th place is Ron Dixon in the Camaro. 7th is Gary Wilmington, a privateer. That's very good to see. 8th place, of course, Murray Carter. 9th is the Charlie O'Brien. I'm sorry, not Charlie O'Brien, but Bill O'Brien. And in 10th place, the Jansen Perkins Cadbury Schweppes Commodore. Okay, trying to start the car in the pit area. Okay, getting going. So we might follow this just to have a look at the familiarisation lap for David Hobbs. Keeping in mind he hasn't been out there just taking the car over. surf and turf of BMW today. Okay.
All right, well, while David Hobbs heads up the mountain, we might hold this picture, but let's take a comment from Alan Grice, who's in the pits now with Evan Green.
A little bit of talk, but apart from that, it seems to be holding the turn around the corners and under brake. Been doing everything right.
Alan's on his way now. What is that?
We must have kicked the accelerator when I got out.
I made a mistake. Made a mistake. Simple as that. At that stage of the game, shouldn't have tried to hold the right-hand side of the road. Shouldn't have tried to go on as deep as that under brakes. And so I probably compounded. I probably made 3 mistakes. Once the rear locked up and it came around, I lost the option to go down the escape road. But I just made about 3 mistakes in a row, I suppose, and a pretty sad end of a fairly sad year.
It must be fairly easy to do, though, in a race where so much has been happening and there's so great a pressure upon the driver.
Oh, yeah, but I am living at it. I shouldn't stuff it up like that.
Now, how bad is the car? Is there any damage, or is it just sand underneath? Or anything been damaged in the loose, deep stuff you're caught in?
Well, unfortunately, I only had the opportunity to drive at about 40 or 50 yards on bitumen. It appears to be quite all right. The brake pedal felt okay, although, you know, I would have heated the brake material up. But Hobbs is very experienced. He'll be used to that, or he'll be able to resuscitate the brakes. I turned the engine off, so it didn't overheat. I really don't think that there'll be anything wrong. The only possibility that I'm sure Hobbs is testing out at the moment is that being suddenly parked in a braking area at the end of a high-speed braking area with the pads on the discs, I may have cracked a disc, but I'm sure that he would be left-footing the car first of all and feeling whether that was the case. Also, we came straight in and Frank had the boys change the 4 wheels, so they've also had an opportunity to look at the discs. But you know, it's an unfortunate thing, although it's a 6-hour race, more than 6-hour race. It's at 10 or 12 minutes we lost there. That's the ball game.
How was the car going up to that point?
The car was very good. It was all the instruments were exactly right. I dropped 500 revs. I was only using 7.5 to make it a bit easy. We could run at the times. Mechanically, the car was exactly right. It was just the driver that made the cock up.
Well, Alan, very honest. Alan Grice, maybe when you had a drink, you could come and join us in the pit area and talk to David Hobbs on the radio and just see how the car is. In a few minutes?
I'll slash my wrist first.
No, he's still got a sense of humour. Alan Grice, as you'd need to. Well, David Hobbs has taken over the car. He's made all the adjustments, the mirror, the seating position. And there we can follow the car going up into GTX Ben, right-hander. David Hobbs, a vastly experienced driver, drives for BMW North America. I've already made mention of his broadcasting ability with CBS Network in the United States.
Alan Jones, Mike, has completed only 1 lap of the circuit. It took him 3 minutes and 39 seconds to do so, and he's back in the pits.
Dear me, everything just seems to go wrong. So they're back in. We'll follow the first lap in a bit with David Hobbs over the top of the mountain. Loved the circuit in practice. And what a practice they had. It was blustery and blowy, and then, of course, qualifying yesterday in practice in the rain. Well, that's the scene. David Hobbs has taken over after Alan Grice has climbed out of the quicksand, and the BMW will take a break and return with more action live from Mount Panorama at Bathurst. Hardy 1000, and there is our race leader, Dick Johnson of Queensland. Just back behind Johnson with a couple of cars, Alan Moffat, who has just had a lap put on him by our race leader. We'll be taking an IBM scorecard checkout very shortly for you to fill in the top placings. But there's Dick Johnson, looking good at this stage, getting up into the top part of the course. Looking nicely out in front with a lap down. There's Moffat's car further back. There's Murray Carter trailing Dick Johnson, and then Alan Moffat further back. Okay, bad luck indeed, stalking the Warren Cullen and Alan Jones attack on Mount Panorama. Let's go to the pits and Evan Green.
Back at Mount Panorama, and it certainly hasn't been Alan Jones's year. In the pits with a car that looks pretty well immobilised. Alan Jones, what's the story?
Well, when I took over from Warren Cullen, I think previous to that, a piece of the airbox, the aluminium piece, had fallen in front of the radiator, and the car had been running very, very hot. In fact, this was what accounted for the unscheduled pit stop earlier in the race. And I think because it was running very hot, and on top of that, the oil pump belt broken completely off, and we had no oil pressure at all, so it's lunged itself, I think.
You're out of the race?
I'd say so, yes.
How do you feel when you come so far for such a big race and have such a short drive?
Well, I'm not far from home.
You've had a rotten season.
Well, I've had better, that's for sure, but, you know, that's the way it goes. I had a good season last year, and this year I've had a lot of bad luck, but, you know, that's motor racing. It's man-made and it's mechanical. I mean, you put those two things together, anything can happen.
But surely there's a greater disappointment when you're the world champion and so much more is expected of you.
Well, I don't think it's any greater disappointment because I'm the world champion. I think it's a disappointment for the team because probably there's a lot of expected on them. The pressures are on their shoulders to supply me with a good car, and I feel sorry for them, I really do.
Alan Jones, and back to you, Mike Raymond.
Thank you very much, Evan, and our thanks also and commiserations go, of course, to Alan Jones. Okay, Dick Johnson coming down, pit straight away. Doing it ever so smoothly out in front. Has been able to ease off the pace, set his own pace. The pressure is not on him. We'll take a look at the IBM scorecard. Our thanks to IBM, who join us each and every year on our telecast from Mount Panorama. Our lead car, of course, is Dick Johnson of Queensland and John French of Queensland in the Falcon, the True Blue Prudential entry number 17. Second place, surprise, surprise, from 1976, 1981. Will it be the same? Bobby Morris and John Fitzpatrick for the Channel 7 Bob Jane T-Mart team. In third place, Commodore number 11. The Launceston Hotel Commodore, Gary Rogers, Benson Brown. In fourth place, Commodore number 27, Garth Weekston from Tasmania and Harrington. In fifth place, outright, Mazda number 43, the Peter Stuyvesant International RX-7, Alan Moffat, Derek Bell. In sixth place, of course, we have the Camaro Barbecues Galore entry of Ron Dixon and Bob Stevens. In seventh place,
seventh position, Mike, occupied by the Wilmington Griffin Falcon. I guess the high attrition rate amongst the other highly fancied cars has helped to move them up through the field. Murray Carter also in contention in his car 18, the Falcon, in eighth position outright, followed by the Commodore car 3 of Peter Jansen and Larry Perkins, and another Falcon, Bill O'Brien and Gary Cook in car 30. It takes us up to 10th. The 11th spot at the present time occupied by Brown Edmondson Commodore, and then Wanless and Radburn in car 16.
Well, that's a team running, yes, 11th and 12th, so they're running behind.
Yeah. I noticed that the first of the four-cylinder cars has now forced its way, in fact, into the top 20 on the track, and that's the Nissan Bluebird with Hassimi and Hoshino.
Light on. Okay, with the two Capris of Masterton and Stewart, and Bond and Smith, 15th and 16th at this moment. And for the oval track buffs, 19th position is held by Brian Callahan and Peter Mackay. Okay, there's our race leader, Dick Johnson, coming down at the completion of another lap.
Passes the Alexander Rotary Mazda. Oh, one of them spun out. The Recar cars at the bottom.
Oh, dearie me. We'll get that for you in a second as we're committed to Dick Johnson. We'll just follow him through this turn, reposition, and then go back and take a look at the Recar.
No, it's the Roadways. It's Garth Weekston.
Garth Weekston.
Car 27, and of course he was not all that far behind the leading pace.
Well, problems down there for Weekston, who's gone off. I don't think he's really got into the sand trap, but he's got problems there, and he's run around the front of the car, get out of harm's way. The two team cars have just gone past that. So drama already too for Garth Weegston.
Well, he was in 4th place when that incident occurred, and that's going to drop him down very rapidly.
Well, believe it or not, in 5th place, but probably, I would think, almost half a lap down, and that would be the Moffat Bell Mazda entry. OK, Johnson goes over the top of the mountain. The Masterton Holmes Capri team boys are ready to effect a quick pit stop. And we wait for the arrival of their car in the pit so you can actually see how it all works. Don't forget our lap sponsors, of course, Coca-Cola bottlers for the first segment of laps. And now we're on to the Ingersoll Rand Awards, $50 a lap. We believe that we have oil everywhere down at the bottom of Murray's Corner. Now that's where you can see, actually, across to the right there, if that is in fact apart all the tyre marks coming through the corner, whether or not someone has dropped some oil coming through there. And that is the worst possible place to drop it. OK, very gingerly through there goes Peter Brock. Camaro coming in, and the Masterton team car is already in the pit, so let's take a look at the pit activity now. Dry brake system where the pit crew members, as you can see, with full fire protective Nomex hoods, Nomex gear, Nomex gloves. Bring you the action fairly close up, as you can see. Changing wheels. Up to 33. Steve Masterton car, and of course co-driver listed as Bruce Stewart, 33 off and running, rejoining the race. So that was very, very quick, a very effective pit stop. They're often going quite smartly out of the pit area, a quick one.
The car is in 3rd position in the 6-cylinder class at the present time, Mike, and interesting, and something that we ought to give some attention to now at this stage of the race, also in 6th position in the index of performance as well. It's the handicap section of this James Hardy 1000 race, where by a very complicated mathematical formula, all cars can compete regardless of their cylinders and capacity in this index of performance. Which car gives the best performance overall, regardless of its engine capacity or number of cylinders. And the leader in the index of performance at this stage of the race is the Mazda RX-7 car 43, the Stuyvesant Racing Team entry of Alan Moffat and Derek Bell, followed very closely by 2 of the 4-cylinder cars, the turbocharged Datsun Bluebird, or Nissan Bluebird, car 56, Hasimi and Hoshino, and then Peter Williamson's Toyota Celica car 77 with Peter and his co-driver John Smith. They're the top 3 cars at the present time in the index of performance.
Well, bad luck strikes the Johnny Goss entry that has been wheeled back. They have clutch trouble with the car, so the K-Tel entry is going back into the pit area. Its race has been run. One Masterton car out there, the second one, this is the 32 car, the one that's been driven by Colin Bond and Don Smith, comes into the pit area. Bondi, I think, who completed the first driving segment. Don Smith helps Colin Bond to unbuckle, gives him a pat on the shoulder, tells him if there's anything wrong with the car, anything it's doing it shouldn't be doing. But they make very, very smooth pit stops. They're a very well-organised team. Jim Masterton and the Masterton Homes people. Everyone has done their work spot on the pit area during these pit changes. They attack the 6-cylinder class with the same verve and the same professionalism as Dick Johnson and Peter Brock attack the outright class.
As of the moment the finish flag drops on this race tonight, those 2 cars are for sale. Both the Masterton Capris. Steve and Colin will be moving into a big car next year. There's Alan Moffat into pit straight and about to pass our commentary position. Moffat leading the index of performance, as I mentioned just a few moments ago. It is now in 4th position outright on the track, although 1 lap down on the race leader, Dick Johnson. Dick Johnson in car 17, the True Blue Prudential Falcon, leads the race by 51 seconds from another Falcon, Bobby Morris, in car 7, with a further 25-second spread to Gary Rogers in 3rd place at the present time in the Launceston Hotels entry, car 11.
There's Mrs. Bond, quite happy to have Colin back for the lunch break as Don Smith takes over the Masterton Team Capri car. A former Bathurst winner, one of the most professional drivers in Australian motorsport.
Steve Masterton about to be passed by Alan Moffat in the RX-7.
It just keeps on going, the RX-7, peripheral ported version. Alan Moffat streaking over the top of the mountain. Quite confident the car would run the distance without a problem in the world. Said he wouldn't really be concerned if it was a 24-hour race. Looks like Steve Masterton and Colin Bond, the lead drivers for their respective team cars, having a chat, assessing how their positions are at the moment and what they can do a little later.
Everybody seems to be smiling.
Well, they're looking good at this stage. Okay.
Here's a man that's looking good, Alan Moffat. Leader in the 6-cylinder and rotary class. 4th position outright on the track, and leader in the index of performance.
Here he goes down Conrod straight away. One more lap up for Moffat, and they're just coming back through the field. Given another couple of hours, any problems with the leaders, don't ever discount the possibility that Alan Moffat and Derek Bell might just not win outright the James Hardy 1000 Classic. We'll take a break and return with more live action.
Today, he leads the 6-cylinder and rotary class by 3 laps at this stage of the race, and is in 4th place outright and leads the index of performance. And the car is running as sweetly as if he'd just run it onto the track.
Well, it must be a rather refreshing period in the career of Alan Moffat to be back with a competitive team, the backing of an international sponsor, and of course Mazda. Not only will Alan Moffat's racing be seen in Australia this year, he also plans to make it fully international. Let's let the man himself talk about what a win at Bathurst today would mean to him. Alan Moffat.
Well, racing is my life, and naturally a racer without an affiliation with a motor manufacturer isn't going to do very much. And I was always very proud of my associations with Ford over the years. And when they couldn't see their way clear to continue, and Mazda wanted to, I was naturally delighted, because I think it would have meant stopping racing. There's no point in carrying on without factory support. The biggest factor that the little RX-7 has is its reliability, Evan. The motors start up in the morning and they'll go virtually for 24 hours, as they have proved at Daytona and in Belgium, winning outright a 24-hour race. The longer the race, the better they go. At Daytona, we qualified 44th, finished 5th. That's not a bad routine when you're up against a 800 horsepower Porsche 935. I can't say for sure where we will come at Bathurst. Sandown proved to us that we're certainly not as fast as the V8s. But if the V8s are pushed, if there's genuine competition at the top level between Brock and Johnson and Bartlett, if they are pushing each other to the limits that those cars will take, 2 of the 3 won't take it, and perhaps we'll be around to pick up the pieces. Driving the Porsche turbos has taught